The question is that the Honourable Clayton Cosgrave.
Mr Speaker, I want to reflect briefly on the contribution from Dr Nick Smith, who, for those who don't know, is the Minister who checked out of Cabinet, or maybe he does need to be checked out, one of the two. But that Minister got up and gave an array of figures about the historical costs of local government, and then made it up, and then accused speakers on this side of the House of not telling the truth when they disputed it, and then, of course, blocked singularly, I think he was the only National Party MP who blocked singularly, the tabling of those figures which show the truth. And I just say to Dr Smith, as his sort of hair stands on end as he speaks, that he has no credibility when it comes to substantia. Oh yes, no, that's true, Mr Finlayson, I grant you that, but I do not need to be checked out, unlike that member. I say this, that Dr Smith has absolutely no credibility when it comes to figures and citing figures, given, as Moana Mackie said, his disgraceful conduct in respect of manufacturing crises, saying ACC was going to go broke as Minister so he could slash and burn it, and now we know, of course, their investments are at record highs. So that member's a bit like John Banks, his credibility is in the political sewer. But I stand as a Canterbury member, as a person who has lived in Canterbury most of his life, and as a politician and before being a politician, I can say this, that in respect of the Chief Executive's salary increase in Christchurch and the controversy around that individual and the Mayor, not just because of the salary but because of the lack of performance, I have never seen, and I'm sure Mr O'Rourke, who's a former councillor, would probably agree with me, I have never seen Conservative business elements and others in the community so united to rid themselves of an individual, and I'm not making a judgment on that, but so united to rid themselves of an individual because of the lack of performance. And I just place that on the record. I'm not making a judgment on Mr Marriott, but the facts speak for themselves. I've never seen a time when business came together and demanded that he go and demanded accountability from that council. And therein lies the difficulty, because we have a crisis in Canterbury. I mean, let's just speak about Christchurch. And we have, sadly, a dysfunctional, in my view, local authority, where there has been infighting, where there has been a lack of transparency. And I would cite even Councillor Tim Carter, who is related to a member opposite and a good councillor. He may not be the political colour that I am, but a good councillor, and he and others have joined hands across the aisle in demanding accountability from that local authority, and I commend Councillor Carter and others for that. And what this bill simply seeks to do is to obtain some accountability from that council. When you have a council in Christchurch dysfunctional, not performing, and a local authority area in Canterbury in crisis, and suddenly there's an approval for a $68,000 salary, and Nick Smith said, of course, in his sort of usual sort of slipshod way, slippery with the facts, he didn't accept the $68,000, so in Nick Smith's small myopic world, the system works. Well, maybe he's forgotten the outcry that came from all quarters of Christchurch, across, by the way, the political divide, including some of his mates, few though they are, who said this is not on. This is not on, and very few levers exist for a council to stop that behaviour. And why did Mr Marriott not take it? Well, Dr Smith, wakey, the strength of public opinion. He did take $26,000 though, of course. He did take that. So if Dr Smith demands accountability and transparency, he would support this bill. And if he doesn't like it and he wants to improve it, then what he could do is allow it to go to Select Committee, show his real steel, if he's got any, and propose some amendments to improve it. But oh no, tonight, pray and spray from Nick Smith. No ideas himself, and if he had legislation that we voted against, well, he could put it up again when he was Minister. But he's checked out in a number of ways, and he knows it. Checked out completely, sir. And I'd say that member won't be back in a cabinet any time soon. So if he doesn't agree with the legislation and he thinks it can be improved, then he has an option. And that's to get up and vote for it, send it to a Select Committee and prove us wrong. But he doesn't like it, it's been proposed, and yet again he's sold out, and his party, the people of Canterbury.
Called Dennis O'Rourke.
New Zealand First does support this bill because